Everyone, my name is Matthew Moser. I'm a software engineer over here at itemis, and today I'm going to be walking you through a pretty advanced topic within Secure. This is scripting and how you can create your own user end scripts that will allow you to make rapid transformations to your models within itemis Secure. If you're unfamiliar with programming, base language Java, functional and object-oriented programming concepts in general, this topic likely won't apply to you specifically. This is really for our much more advanced users, and this is something that we do here at itemis to help with our Tara client service engagements. But I'll be showing you just a little bit of how you can do some basic scripting within the tool. This will just be one example. I'll let you play around with it yourself and kind of get a feel for how it all works and get your mind going on what you could possibly do with these scripts. But let's go ahead and take us over to our secure project itself. Here we have our project. For the sake of this demo, we're just going to go ahead and create a couple of components within here because we're going to want to make a change to our damage scenarios. So I'll just go ahead, well, that's fine with two components here. We can go ahead then into our assistant, go to asset identification, and we'll create a couple of damage scenarios for these particular areas. Perfect. Now that that's done, we can actually see those in our damage scenarios here. Now we want to do a change to our model. We want to actually go ahead and automatically apply a title to everything here based on a rule set. In fact, what I would like to do is have it be confidentiality of new component 1 is compromised, but I would like to apply that across the board. So for DS1, it would be what I had just said, but for DS2, I want to say integrity of new component 1. And then for DS4, integrity of new component 2, etc., etc. Now we could do this by going ahead and typing this out. Of cmp.1 new component, blah, blah, blah. But that takes a while. That's time you have to spend doing this, and why bother with that if you can just automatically apply the layout that we have, especially if that's something that you've already agreed to use. So we're going to go ahead and create a script that does that for us. So we're going to go ahead and create a new root. In this case, we're going to go to Utilities, User Script. This is where we can create scripts that we can choose to rerun easily, and we can actually go ahead and let's set a virtual package for this. So we want it to be within its own folder. Let's just call it scripts. And now this script is placed within my script folder. Here we can see the start of our script. It's just a new line. It prints script execution has finished. We can go ahead and give this a test run. When we do so, we can see that the script has actually functioned here and that the execution worked as intended. This is a very, very basic script. It is essentially your hello world of secure MPS scripting. But let's go ahead and do something a little bit more complicated. Let's go ahead and look into those damage scenarios and how we can actually target those. So first, let's get rid of all the information here. We don't want to print out anything that's not particularly relevant for us. We're going to go ahead and look for instances where we're in a damage scenario and that damage scenario is editable. So essentially just targeting our damage scenario itself. So I'll go ahead and use Control Space to open up the section, and then let's go to, we should be able to do instances. Yeah, we might need to go ahead and import a catalog, but that's perfectly fine. So let's go ahead and do so. Instances, no matches found. Why is it doing that? Well, we can go ahead and pull the command from here. Let's go and find instances by condition. Actually, that's the incorrect one. Do this for modify instances by condition. This is essentially our starting point for this particular solution. So we can go ahead and copy paste everything into this particular field. We go ahead and do so. It imports the languages of JetBrains MPS model query and scripts. We're going to want those within our model, which is why we're now able to call in the instances method, is because it's currently present within there. So here we have our section here, but we don't want to target base concept. Base concept isn't what we're looking for. We can go ahead and move that. Instead, we're looking for damage scenarios. When I go ahead and search for that, it's not present, so we need to import a model that contains that root into here. So we're looking for our damage scenario. Go ahead and do so. We can see the ComRad core structure. This is exactly what we're looking for. We'll go ahead and bring that in. And then within this section, we can now search for our damage scenario. Perfect. So in instances where our damage scenarios are editable and it's true, it's going to do this particular action. This refactor isn't something that we're going to want. We're going to want to put this in a loop because we're going to be doing this across the board for every single damage scenario that we have. So we're going to go ahead and create a for each loop here. So with our loop, we now have our sections where it's looking for the node of a damage scenario in which it's editable. That's going to be all of the nodes that we find within here. So every one of these things that I've selected. Now we get to actually do the fun part and write what we want our loop to do. So for this, we're going to look at the node itself. So we can go ahead and do so. Now we want to look at some different attributes of this particular node. So by using control space, we can see that we have access to a couple of different methods that are available for us, as well as we have some link declarations that are described here. The format that I'm going to want to do is the specific security property, the plain text of, and then the specific piece of architecture that we're targeting, and then is compromised as its own string. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and get that concerns section first. We're going to look down into that area, and then let's see what we can find. Qualified assets, yep, that's what we're looking for. And then we can look at either the CS property or TOEE. Now, if you're a little bit confused as to where these link declarations are coming from, that's perfectly normal, but we can actually go ahead and examine that within our model. So looking at this damage scenario, I can right-click it, and then go to Show Reflective Editor for the subtree. With this, you'll see that suddenly my damage scenario looks a lot different than how it typically does within the editor, but we can actually see where, with these green sections, what part of the structure we're looking at. So for the concern section, it contains our qualified asset list. Qualified assets contain our CS property, which is the target of confidentiality. And TOEE is our TOE component reference, which holds component 2. We can also see different sections such as the scale, the free text description area, and those are other aspects that we can modify should we choose. If we don't want this view anymore, we can, of course, left-click, show the regular editor, and it changes back to that. We don't need to be concerned about being in either the reflective subtree editor or within the normal tree editor when we're creating our script, but that's just a quick way for us to be able to check what it is. It also doesn't matter when you're running the script. So let's go back to our user script here. We are now going to be looking at the CS property. That is our main concern. And then we're going to be looking at the target because we're deciding what specifically it's going to be choosing to target. We can also see this within the open concept declaration. So for within this section, qualified asset, if we search down into the qualified asset and then the security property reference, we can see that it's using target. So going back over here, we have target, that's perfectly fine. And then let's go ahead and we're going to take the first element that it finds because we're only really concerned about the first element within the section. All of our damage scenarios only have the single concerns property available. If we had multiple, then we might want to set up an array or check for all of the different concerns properties that we have, but we're only concerned about one. Going back over to here, we have first, and that essentially completes our section here. We are now, this is how we find that information. But we need to actually set this to our title. So in order to do this, let's go ahead and actually delete everything that we have here. We'll create it really quickly, but we need to change our title. So let's go to node.title. Title is a property declaration. It's something that we can easily modify. So we'll go ahead and set that. And then we need to decide how we're going to actually modify this information. I'm going to be using set just because it allows us to directly paste what we would like into our system. And then let's rewrite that code that we had previously. So it's going to be node.concerns.qualified assets.CS property.target.first. So essentially what we've done here is we've told it that we're going to set it to this particular value, but set requires us to have more of an argument and to have a string associated with it. So if we just wanted confidentiality or whatever security property we have to be included, we could end our code here run it and it would be perfectly fine, but that's not what I want to do. I want to have that full string. I'm going to give myself a space just so that it has some distance between of and the rest of the characters there. And then let's go ahead and add another section. So we have our CS property already created, and it's going to do our CS property and then the string of. Now I want it to target as well the components or the data or whatever we have that is within that qualified asset labeled as a TOE component. So in order to do this, it's going to be a very similar process to what we did for the CS property, but it's going to be slightly different because it doesn't have a target itself. In fact, we're going to be playing around with the order in which we do something. So let's go ahead into our node. We're going to go to concerns. Then we're going to go to qualified assets. And then here we can see that we have our branching path. So instead of doing CS property, I'm concerned about what's in the TOEE. And then I can hit space and oh, suddenly we can see that target isn't an available option. And that's actually intentional. When we look at what TOEE is, instead it is a reference using an interface. So because it's using an interface, we have to access it through a slightly different method. So we're first going to set it to the first property. We're going to get the first element of that. And then we're going to use the method for us to actually get this particular section. So this would be TOEE target, and now we have that present within our model, and then we can add the rest of our string here. So we can put the final touch is compromised. And now we have this present within our for each loop. So we've essentially set it for every single node within this selection here. It's going to set the title to this value with the string of following it, the concerns, TOE target value, and then the string is compromised. So let's go ahead and give this a run. If you are into scripting and you are doing this quite a lot, I highly recommend that for projects that you're actively working on, to have them enabled with Git and to do a git commit of your current project before you actually go ahead and start making the changes. Just because if you mess something up pretty bad and you want to be able to go back in time, that will enable you to do that without having to worry about the rest of your model. So let's go ahead and run. And perfect. So we can see that it's actually gone ahead and created this. We can see that the damage scenario 2, the integrity of the component here, CMP1, is compromised. And if that's all that I was looking for, I could go ahead and have just that. That's perfectly fine. If I wanted to change how the script functioned, I could go ahead and do so. Additionally, if you're looking at the tool itself and you see different methods, so for instance, I'm going to go ahead and delete all the work that I did here. If you're just interested in some of the methods that we have pre-baked into the tool, you can just go ahead and do node, and then you can look at some of the entries here. And depending on if that method is available for you, if that's something that you're interested in, you can go ahead and do so. In this particular case, we actually have a auto name and title. This, when I run it, it does exactly what I did just now, what I hard-coded in front of you, but it just adds it as its own little method, and you don't have to do any of that coding if you were unaware how to. Of course, if you do know how to do the coding yourself, you can then create your own methods, or if for whatever reason this particular method didn't do something quite the way that you wanted to, you could go ahead and actually make those changes. For instance, if I didn't want it to be this specific format, but is compromised by an attacker and have that by an attacker string at the end, I could then code it the way that I did previously and then provide that information. There are also a bunch of different other ways that you could achieve that similar goal, even with just this method, and then adding some additional information to the title. But for now, this is just a very, very brief introduction in terms of how you can use scripting and greatly benefit from it. And I'll go ahead and create one more damage scenario just to demonstrate how this particular method works. Let's go ahead and create one for system. And then as you can see, no title is applied, but once I go over to my user script, I go ahead and run it one time. Oh, this one didn't actually want to tick that. That's a little odd. Should have taken that same command, but that's perfectly fine. We could go ahead and recreate our node.title.set, etc., and it would work as intended. That's going to be it for me. If you have any questions about the secure tool, feel free to reach out to contact us. Please do note, though, that this is a quite advanced topic within secure, as it involves a lot of scripting. So we likely won't be able to assist you directly with this. This is typically something that will help clients work on as part of our service agreements, so that we can expedite the creation of their taras, as well as make rapid changes to their model should different rule sets come down the line, or they have a specific use case in which we can help with the aid of scripting. I hope everyone has a nice day. Feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel for additional content in the future. Thank you, and have a nice day.